YouTube, Mark Kaufman here, and today I want to show you yet again a few new knives that have come in the mail. Now, these are going to be knives that I'm going to be using as either comparisons or historical representations of knives that you could have bought back in the day. Now, a few of these knives I'm actually going to also be using as a project for me, and it will be something that will be something new for me at least. And the new project is going to be this. This is a Victorinox Electrician Old Cross. Now, this is an Old Cross, meaning that it has the ALOX handle with the Old Cross logo. Now, what we're really familiar with is this kind of ALOX from Victorinox with the Victorinox shield. But at one time they did make these types of shield covers, or should I say ALOX covers for their knives. Now, they discontinued or stopped making those covers in, I believe, the late 90s or maybe even the early 2000s. And I'm talking maybe 2000 to 2003. Now, this knife here, it's in decent shape, but I'm actually guessing this is probably from the early, I'd probably say early 2000, maybe even late 90s. So it's not too old, but this is going to be the project. We're going to have to clean this blade up, and we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do about the tip. I've already kind of figured out what I'm going to do, and I'm going to kind of file this down or even grind it down so then we can get a straight edge here again. So that is the Victorinox Electrician. We've got a used main blade, but that'll be cleaned up and polished. And then we have the cap lifter, but we have the finishing that is indicative of the late 90s on these knives. So this kind of finishing stopped being done in probably 99, 98, and you don't really see this kind of finishing on the knives. Now, whoever owned this knife did do a few things to it, and he did create a chisel on the end of his screwdriver, so I also will be flattening this out, but that's not going to be too hard to do. So this is going to be definitely a great project, and then of course the awl it's intact, but I'm probably going to sharpen that up as well. So that's going to be a great video in itself. So the next thing that I got in the mail was a Windsor. And this is going to be great to compare against a ambassador model, or should I say a Prince model that I have, and maybe even discuss the differences and the benefits of either one. So this is essentially, you got scissors, and then you've got a nail file, and then you have a main blade. And this thing is actually in really good shape. I probably think that it was probably bought and then just really never carried, or just used in an office setting. The next thing I picked up was a Victorinox Standard or Spartan. This here is probably from the early 80s, and this thing is, I mean, this thing is so mint. It doesn't have its box, doesn't have any of that, but I mean, this thing is in very good condition, and I'm really happy about that. So we've got a very clean main blade, but the reason why I believe it is early 80s is because in the late to mid 80s, Victorinox changed the spring, and let me get my pointer out here. They actually changed this spring over to a different type of spring. They moved the key ring over to here, and they also had non-keyring models that had this more bulky raised up spring in the back. So this here actually is indicative of knives I would say pre-86. So this is an early to mid 1980s Victorinox Standard. Now, it's got all the standard tools here, but no 90-degree stop. So they installed all those, they installed 90-degree stops on all their knives in 85. And then here, we've got a standard can opener, and then we've got our small pen blade. And then we have the fluted corkscrew, which is very nice to see. And then the other thing is that we don't have the hole or the sewing eye in the reamer. So this is going to be an early 80s knife. I originally bought this to carry, but it is so nice, I'm probably just going to throw it in a few of my knives that I feel are pretty darn mint. So that's another one I picked up. Next one is this. I picked up a Wenger. Now this is actually from the 70s. This is from the 1970s. This is a Wenger Commander. I am going to be polishing the scales up a little bit, but you can see that the emblem or the Swiss cross is actually a aluminum insert with a red enamel applied onto it, and then a red paint put over, not a red paint, a white paint put over the cross. So you have a aluminum surround, and then you have a red lacquer, and then you have a white painted Swiss cross, but you can still kind of see the brushing there of the aluminum on the bottom of it. So that is how they were doing their emblems back in the day. But what we've got here is the regular or standard cap lifter, no patent locking system here. Very good springs, but a very soft close. But what we have for the can opener is the dog leg can opener. Now this actually worked by putting it in the can like this, and then you had to wrench down on it, and it would cut the can open. Not very safe if you ask me, but very, very interesting to see, and it's very uniquely cut. So it's very different. Then we have the nail file, but look at the nail cleaner on the end of this. This is really beautiful. And I'm actually going to be comparing this against a modern Commander before Wenger was bought by Victorinox, but then you can see the older nail file pattern here. So we've got that there, and then we've got the pen, or the not the pen blade, but the main blade. But look at that main blade. I mean, that thing, I don't think that thing ever cut anything. If anything, it just was closed. This knife is in such good condition. I can't believe it. It's very, very unique and very, very good condition. I believe this was probably a gift or something, but in the spring is very nice. I haven't cleaned any of these, so these haven't been washed. Nothing has happened to them, but I believe this was probably a gift, and then somebody just threw it in a drawer. We do have the 5-turn corkscrew also on this Wenger. And then we have the older style awl. Wenger used this awl for quite a while, but this one is more refined. You have sharper edges here and a much sharper point than the more modern ones. Then we also have the Wenger style tweezers. And if I can get it out, we have the vintage Wenger toothpick. All original to this knife from the 1970s. So that was a pretty unique find. And then I also got a Victorinox standard, but this is a pat marked can opener model. So this is going to be mid 60s, very early 70s, but I'm probably going to even say this is going to be probably mid 60s, and this has the Victoria stamp there. I am going to be polishing this blade up and getting it back to where it needs to be, but this is going to be the next project. Oh, look at that blade. That's going to be a project into itself, and I'm going to have to figure out which direction I'm going to go with that, but it can be fixed. Then again, we also have the 5-turn corkscrew here. Looks really good indeed. And then we have the older awl with no sewing eye, and then we've got the nickel silver shield. Now, one of the things I'm probably going to try to do on this is try to repair this crack, or at least fill it with something so it's not going to continue cracking. But that was really the only major crack, was that. Everything else on this is in pretty good shape and should clean up pretty well. So there was that, and then a little bit of a surprise. I bought this in a lot, and the other knife that came with it was a Gerber. And I've written Gerber off a long time ago, but this is a button lock Gerber, which I had never seen before. And I'm going to just warn you, if my thumb looks like it's about to fall off, the tension on this is incredible. Oh, there we go. It is spring assisted, and it almost kills your thumb every time. It uses a spring in the back there, but it has a button lock with ball bearings. So when you do manage to get this thing open, it is held in place via a button lock. After a few openings, you kind of get it to go, but I had to throw some oil in this thing, and I'm probably going to disassemble it, strengthen up the spring here a little bit, and throw some oil into it a little further. Oh man, but it's almost scary to open this thing. But yeah, that was a few new pickups of mine. I cannot wait to start working on them, and I thought you guys would enjoy seeing them. So till the next one, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.